Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and thank you so much for being here. So Libra, let's get started. Libra, you have absolutely no idea what you have done to this person. No idea what has been happening inside them since you came into their life. No idea the kind of impact you have had, the kind of mark you have left, the kind of space you now occupy in the most private and unguarded corners of their inner world. And I say that not to be dramatic, not as a hook or a tease or a way of pulling you into something that does not deliver. I say it because it is the single most accurate thing I can tell you about where things stand right now between you and this person. Because when I tuned into your energy for this reading, when I opened to the frequency of this connection and allowed it to speak, what came back was so overwhelming, so layered, so saturated with the particular quality of feeling that only arrives when someone has been genuinely, deeply, irrevocably touched by another human being, that I had to sit with it for a long moment before I could find words adequate to describe it. You have touched this person's heart, Libra. Not grazed it, not made a pleasant impression on it, not left a mark that will fade with time and distance and the arrival of other experiences. You have reached something in them that has not been reached before. Something that was waiting, perhaps without their knowing, it was waiting for exactly the kind of contact that only you, in your particular and irreplaceable way, were capable of making. And they are undone by it. Quietly, privately, completely undone. So, before we go any further, I need you to do one thing. I need you to set aside, just for the duration of this reading, every story you have been telling yourself about whether you are truly capable of this kind of impact. Every doubt, every quiet voice that says you are probably overestimating what you mean to people. Every protective instinct that reaches for a more modest interpretation of what you sense between you and this person, because hoping too much has cost you before, and the habit of measured expectation has become its own kind of armor. Set all of that down, because what I am about to tell you is not something I want filtered through the part of you that is still learning to believe it deserves this kind of love. I want it to reach you directly, clearly, in its full and extraordinary truth. Are you ready? Then let us begin. Let me take you back to a specific moment, not a grand moment, not something that would make a highlight reel or a romantic movie scene, but a quiet, ordinary moment that this person experienced in your presence that changed something fundamental in them without any announcement or fanfare. You may not even remember it. That is the thing about moments like this. They are often invisible to the person creating them precisely because that person is simply being themselves, simply existing in their natural and unguarded way, without any awareness that what they are doing is landing in someone else, like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples outward in every direction that do not stop just because the stone has long since settled at the bottom. In that moment, you did something, said something, looked at them in a particular way, laughed at something with a quality of genuine delight that was completely unself-conscious, showed a flash of the real you, the unedited, unperformed, fully alive version of you that you sometimes let surface in moments when you forget to manage how you are being perceived. And this person saw it, that flash of the real you, and something in them cracked open, not painfully, but in the way that something opens when it has been closed for a long time and suddenly finds the exact right conditions to become what it was always meant to be. In the way that a door swings open when finally the right key is in the lock. in the way that a held breath releases when the thing that was being braced for turns out to be not danger but beauty. They saw the real you, and their heart, which had been living behind its own careful management, its own version of the composed and protected surface that we all develop as we move through a world that does not always handle us gently. Their heart responded before they could do anything about it. It opened toward you, and nothing has been the same for them since. Libra, is there a moment you can point to, a specific interaction with this person where something shifted, where the quality of what was between you changed in some way you felt but could not quite name? Leave a comment and describe it if you can, because what I am reading in the energy is very specifically about a turning point, and I want to know if you felt it too when it happened. Now let me speak about what has been happening inside this person in the time since that moment. Because touching someone's heart the way you have touched theirs is not a static thing. It does not simply leave a mark and then remain unchanged. It is alive. It moves. It grows and deepens and reveals new dimensions of itself as time passes, and the person who has been touched continues to carry what you left in them. And what this person has been carrying is extraordinary. The first thing I want to speak about is the way your memory lives in them. Because you are present in this person's inner world in a way that goes far beyond what you would expect from someone who simply made a good impression or had a meaningful exchange with them. You are there when they wake up, in that first soft moment of consciousness before the day has fully assembled itself around them, before the obligations and the noise have arrived, in that brief window when a person is most honestly themselves. You are one of the first things that surfaces in their awareness. You are there in the middle of their day. When something happens, something funny or beautiful or strange or thought-provoking, their mind turns to you before it turns to almost anyone else. Not as a deliberate choice, as a reflex, as though you have been installed somewhere in their neural pathways as the default recipient of the things they want to share with the world. You are there at night, in the quiet hours, when the day is over and there is nothing left to do but exist with whatever is actually happening inside them. You are the presence that makes those hours feel different, warmer, more significant, like the ordinary texture of being alive has been enriched by the fact that you exist somewhere in the world and that your existence has intersected with theirs. They think about you constantly, and that constancy has stopped surprising them because it has become so much the baseline of their inner experience that imagining what it felt like before you were there is difficult. You have become part of the landscape of their inner world, a permanent and beloved feature of it. What does it feel like to hear that? What happens in your chest when you allow those words to actually reach you? I want you to notice whatever arises without immediately moving to contain or explain it. And if you want to share what you are feeling in this moment, please do. Your honest response to this reading is part of what makes this space real. Let me now speak about the specific ways you have touched this person's heart, the particular qualities of you that have gotten inside them most completely, because this is not a general or vague thing. This is specific. This is about you, the actual particular you, and what it is about that particular you that has created this level of impact in another soul. The first thing I feel very clearly is your authenticity. In a world that rewards performance, that incentivizes the presentation of a curated self over the honest expression of a real one, you carry something that has become genuinely rare, a quality of realness. of being actually present in your interactions rather than managing them, of responding to what is truly happening rather than to what you have decided should be happening. This person has spent time in the world. They have had many interactions, many relationships, many experiences of other people, and they have become, over time, exquisitely attuned to the difference between the real thing and the performance of it, between someone who is genuinely there with them and someone who is simply executing a version of being there. When they encountered you, they felt the real thing immediately and unmistakably. They felt someone who was actually present, actually responding, actually seeing them rather than performing seeing them. And that experience, that rare and extraordinary experience of genuine contact with another human being, reached them in places that had grown somewhat accustomed to being reached only superficially. You reached them deeply because you were real, because you are always real, because the authenticity that you sometimes take for granted in yourself, the naturalness of your way of being with people, is actually one of the rarest and most precious things you carry. And it touched them in ways they are still discovering. The second thing is your depth of care, the way you love the people in your life. The way your interest in another person is never surface level, never perfunctory, never going through the motions of caring while your attention is actually elsewhere. When you care about someone, they feel it all the way through. In the quality of your attention, in the questions you ask, in the way you remember things they said in passing that they had forgotten they said, in the small and unremarkable ways you make people feel that they matter to you, not as an abstract category of person to be treated well, but as a specific individual whose particular experience of the world is something you find genuinely interesting and important. This person has felt that care directed at them, and it has done something to them that they are still processing. Because being cared for in that specific, attentive, genuinely interested way is something they needed more than they had acknowledged, even to themselves. You gave them something they were hungry for without either of you making a production of the giving and receiving. That quiet, natural, completely unforced gift of real care has lodged itself in their heart in a place it is not going to leave. The third thing, and this one is perhaps the deepest, is the way you make them feel seen. Not seen as they present themselves, not seen as they hope to be perceived, but seen as they actually are, including the parts they are less sure about, including the complexity and the contradiction and the places where they are still uncertain or unresolved or quietly hoping that someone will look at those parts of them and not find them lacking. You have looked at those parts and not found them lacking, and they know it. They feel it. They have felt it in the specific way you engage with them, in the quality of your responses to the more vulnerable things they have shared, in the sense they have when they are with you, that they do not need to perform or manage or present a better version of themselves in order to be acceptable. With you, they feel accepted, as is, without conditions or caveats, or the sense that they are being tolerated rather than genuinely welcomed. In Libra, that feeling, the feeling of being accepted completely and without condition by someone who sees you clearly, is one of the most powerful experiences one human being can give another. It is the foundation of real love, and you gave it to them without trying, without engineering it, simply by being the open, genuine, deeply accepting person that you naturally are. That is what has touched their heart. That is what has gotten inside them so completely that they do not know how to imagine their inner world without you in it anymore. Have you felt any of this from them? That particular quality of their attention when they are with you, the way they seem to relax into something, the way they are perhaps more themselves with you than they are in other contexts. Tell me in the comments, because this is such an important part of the energy I am reading, and your perception of it matters enormously. Now, I want to speak about something that I feel very strongly in the energy of this person, and that I think you need to hear clearly. They are scared, not of you, not of what they feel, but of the size of it, of what it means, of what becomes possible and what becomes at stake when feelings reach this depth and this sincerity and this degree of total involuntary commitment. Because falling this hard, being touched this deeply, having your heart open this completely by another person is not a comfortable experience. It is beautiful. It is extraordinary. It is the kind of thing that people write about and sing about and spend their whole lives hoping for. But it is also vulnerable in a way that very little else is. Because when someone has reached your heart the way you have reached theirs, they have also, by definition, been given the capacity to hurt you in ways that more superficial connections never could. And this person is aware of that. They are standing in the full warmth of what they feel for you, and simultaneously aware of the exposure that warmth represents. The way that caring this much means that you matter to them in a way that has real stakes, real weight, real potential for both extraordinary joy and profound vulnerability. And they are navigating that. They are sitting with both the beauty of what is happening and the courage it requires to let it happen fully, to not pull back, to not manage the feeling down to something more comfortable and controllable, to let the love that is growing in them be the size that it actually is, rather than editing it into something they feel more equipped to handle. What I want you to understand is that their fear is not a signal that they are not sure about you. It is a signal of exactly the opposite. People do not get scared by things that do not matter. The size of their fear is a precise measurement of the size of what they feel. And what they feel, Libra, is enormous. Let me speak now about what is shifting in their behavior toward you, because the internal experience I have been describing is beginning to show up in how they move in relation to you. And I want you to know what to look for. Not so that you can calculate or strategize, but so that when you see it, you recognize it for what it is, rather than second-guessing yourself, the way Libra sometimes does when something good is actually happening. They are finding reasons to be near you, creating opportunities for contact that might appear casual from the outside, but that are anything but casual in their motivation. They are more attentive to you in group settings, more aware of where you are in a room, more likely to direct conversation toward you, to create the conditions for the kind of exchange that allows them to experience that particular quality of connection that only happens between you and them specifically. They are more careful with you lately, more thoughtful. There is a tenderness in the way they handle your presence, a gentleness in the way they move around the fact of your feelings and your well-being that reflects the significance of what they carry for you. When you have someone's heart the way you have this person's heart, you become careful with them, not out of calculation, but out of genuine protectiveness of something precious. They are also, I feel this very clearly, beginning to move toward something, toward a moment of expression, toward the point where what has been held inside is going to need to come out, because the alternative, continuing to feel this much without the person who is the source of it knowing the full scope of what they mean, has become something that feels increasingly impossible to sustain. The heart that has been touched as completely as theirs has been touched does not remain silent indefinitely. It finds its way toward expression, because love of this quality and this depth is fundamentally generative. It wants to create something, it wants to build something, it wants to move from the private world of one person's experience into the shared world where it can become something both people participate in. And that movement is coming. I feel it in the energy with a nearness that is unmistakable. As we move toward the close of this reading, I want to bring everything together into the truth that sits at the center of all of it. You have done something remarkable, Libra. Not by trying, not by being strategic or deliberate or carefully constructed in your approach to this person, but simply by being yourself. By showing up with the genuine warmth and depth and authenticity and care that is simply who you are, that you probably do not even fully register as anything special, because it is so natural to you that it has never occurred to you to see it as the extraordinary gift that it is. You walked into this person's life being exactly who you are, and who you are was enough to touch a heart that perhaps had not been touched in a very long time. Perhaps had begun to wonder if it was going to be touched again. Perhaps had quietly and without drama lowered its expectations for what love was capable of offering. And then you arrived, being you, just you, nothing more and nothing less than the full, genuine, deeply feeling, warmly loving, authentically present person that you are. And everything changed for them. You have no idea, I said at the beginning of this reading, and that was true in the moment I said it, but I hope it is slightly less true now. I hope that what has come through in this reading has given you at least a glimpse of the reality that this person is living, the inner world that you have shaped simply by being who you are, the heart that you have touched in ways that are permanent and profound and completely real. You deserve to know this, not as ego, not as something to hold over anyone or use as leverage, but as a quiet, grounding, stabilizing truth about who you are and what you are capable of simply by existing in your fullness. You are someone who touches hearts deeply, permanently, without even trying. And the heart you have touched most recently, the one that is quietly overwhelmed by the size of what it feels for you, the one that wakes up thinking of you and goes to sleep with you on its mind, that heart is moving toward you with intention, with sincerity, with the particular courage that only comes when something is real enough to be worth the vulnerability of saying so out loud. Stay open to it, Libra. Stay grounded in who you are. Keep being the person who created this extraordinary impact simply by showing up genuinely. Because that person, the real and unguarded and extraordinary you, is exactly who this love is coming for. And you, dear Libra, have absolutely no idea how deserving you are of every bit of it. You are right on time.